Welcome to the Trader a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer working in unscripted TV development, and this podcast recaps and analyses every episode of The Traitors, not just in the UK, but in various countries around the world. This season of the podcast is dedicated to The Traitors UK Series 4. We'll be recapping the main events, analysing the strategy, the tactics, the gameplay, maybe even telling a lie or two along the way. And for every episode of the TV show, we have one main episode of the podcast dedicated to everything that goes on in that episode, and a separate bonus episode all about your questions, thoughts, hot takes, theories, wild accusations. Every episode I'll be joined by a new special guest co-host, and it's time to meet our co-host for today. Elliana is a freelancer working across TV, film, podcasting and digital with a soft spot for Frankenstein. She is a Frankenstan, film history, and despite not being Australian, Vegemite, I should have said that in an Australian accent, Vegemite on toast. She's recently started giving tours at the Cinema Museum in London and might tell us a little bit about that later, and begs us to visit. Otherwise, she's just a mad woman talking to a mannequin in an old usherette uniform. What a lovely image. I kind of wish that you were wearing an usherette uniform today. Elliana, welcome. You're back on the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I like that you called me a Frankenstan. That is a new term.
It's the perfect term for you, I think. You know all about Frankenstein and all sorts of other things in the world of film and TV, of course. We are going to be... Well, you've been on the podcast before, so lots of our viewers on YouTube will recognise you, and our listeners will recognise your lovely voice, Elliana. We're going to talk about episode 5 today. You've lucked out. What an episode to be talking about.
I know. I guess it's a pretty standard episode. For me, I thought... I even maybe found it a little on the slower side. I was like, it's just a regular good Traitors episode. And then, oh my God, it was explosive at the end. I personally don't think I've seen what happened at the end on the Traitors before, at least not the UK Traitors. Maybe you've seen that happen on other kinds of Traitors?
Maybe sort of versions of that, but not quite in the same way and not quite so unexpected. I watched the show a little bit late, so I wasn't sort of watching it live. I was, I think, editing the previous podcast, so I was busy with that. It wasn't on TV, but I was avoiding social media. I know that I really ought to do that and not have any spoilers, but like 4 or 5 people sent me separate messages going, "Oh my God, have you watched the episode?" So I was like, something must happen that people are going out of their way, not to spoil it, but just to say like, "Have you watched it? Please, once you've watched, we must talk about it." So I knew that something big was coming. So
I had no idea.
To talk about.
So you watched it in a slightly different frame of mind to me. I also didn't watch it live, but I also am avoiding social media, and people don't immediately come to me with their Traitors reactions like they might with you. My phone wasn't blowing up. I had no idea, and then it took me completely by surprise. But you must have you must have been a bit confused, like, what's this? What's the thing in this episode that everyone's obsessed with? Particularly the last 2-3 minutes, it kind of happens, and then I'm so excited.
Which made me think that something I knew something was coming, and at various points it was like, oh, maybe it's now, and then nothing strange would happen. So along the way, I was second guessing so many different things. And I'll, as we go through the episode, I'll probably tell you what some of those theories were that I had while I was watching. Before we get into the episode, though, Elliana, we are going to initiate our podcast game, The Traitor. We are putting Traitors viewers' claims that they could easily spot the Traitors' lies and deceptions to the test by playing our own game of secrecy and betrayal here on the podcast. The challenge for Elliana and I for the remainder of this episode is to tell a sneaky lie to each other. Our lie has to be a fabrication or a made-up fact, big or small, about the Traitors or anything we like, really. For example, I could lie to Elliana and say that in the US Traitors, which has just started airing, Fiona's their secret traitor too. She's everywhere. However, sadly that's not true. However, I couldn't lie and say I think Claudia Winkleman should step down as the host, when I would never think something like that. That would just be a fake opinion. That means that wouldn't count. We're looking for fake facts, false pieces of information, rather than just pretend thoughts and feelings. And listeners, you can put your skills to the test and see if anything lights up your trader while Eliana and I are talking. We're then going to play Traitor Hunter in the listener Q&A episode right after this and reveal our lies. Eliana, you ready to be a traitor and betray me?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I've never
Okay.
succeeded in betraying you without you noticing yet, but I am determined that today will be the day.
Okay, well, our game begins now. And before we dive into episode 5, I've got a couple of items to catch up on from episode 4. I had an email from Adam W., who mentioned something, and then Natalie on Spotify, and I think Sarah on YouTube corrected me as well. I was being really silly in the last episode. I was like, oh, I wonder why in episode 4 they had a round table really early on in the day, right after breakfast. Maybe it's because the weather was bad, so they just wanted to keep them indoors because they couldn't do the mission. Then people were like, no, Matthew, there's a really obvious reason why they did the round table early. First of all, Adam W. said, quick note, they did this in US Season 4, the new season. So it seems like it was something that was planned all along. It's nothing to do with the weather. And then Natalie on Spotify said, Matthew, the round table would have to come before the mission because of the 4 contestants being locked up in the cages afterwards. And I thought, oh yeah, of course. After the mission, 4 people were left behind. They couldn't then go and have a round table without those 4 people. Well, they could have. Or like let them out of the cage to come to the round table and then go back to the cage. That really would have ruined the illusion. So I thought, oh yeah,
A
that's
bit
because
less
of the mission.
mad.
That's why. So thank you, people, for pointing out how dumb I was. And lastly, Jane on Instagram sent me a message to clarify something because I made a mistake. Jane had sent me this incredible message last time about something she's noticed in the family tree picture. Jane has noticed that there are different scroll types. So some of them have like pointed ends, some of them have curls that come down the page, and so on. So Jane was theorising that there's a connection between players who've got matching types of scrolls. And I mixed up Jane's message and I said, oh, I think Jane's got the names wrong. I think Jane meant that, but Jane was right and I was wrong. So Jane was just saying maybe it's not the connections we know about, like Ellie and Ross and Judy and Roxy. I think Jane's suggesting maybe there's some other secret reason why different players have different types of scrolls that we haven't found out yet. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just correcting myself so that I didn't make Jane look like the idiot who had typed wrongly and that I am the idiot who read it out wrongly. So there we go. We are going to talk about episode 5. I think we are ready to go. Eliana, let's do
Do
it. To
it.
recap then, the secret traitor has been revealed as Fiona, of course, which has already made Rachel very nervous. Ross was banished in this middle of the day banishment. I just said the word banished twice in the same sentence. That was pathetic. And the mission then decided that Maz, Reese, and Sam, one of them would be murdered face to face. Of course, Stephen the traitor is also in a cage with them, posing as a shortlisted faithful. And it meant that Rachel and Fiona had to make their murder decision alone without Stephen. The episode begins. We're still at the cages, it's night. These henchmen, executioner figures, strike the rope that's holding Sam captive. They've set him free, which, there goes my theory. I predicted that Sam was going to be murdered. So straight away I was wrong. Eliana, you could lie to me, of course, but did you have any prediction about which one of the players might be murdered in the cages?
I I felt that maybe Maz was going to go. I mean, Fiona had put him up several times, and if Fiona was part of that decision, I felt like she might just push for him to go. And as I think Maz pointed out that him and Fiona were quite tight friends, which I hadn't necessarily noticed, but if Maz felt like that, maybe that was Fiona's plan all along with putting him
Mm.
forward. So to be honest, I felt like it kind of could have. it could have been anyone,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wasn't too surprised with Maz.
Okay, we actually have a listener theory about another reason for Maz's murder a little bit later. We're going to come to that in our bonus episode. So, yes, Sam is freed. Stephen, of course, is freed after that, and it means that Reese and Maz remain. The three traitors arrive. Of course, we know Stephen is one of them. There's a close up on an axe. Oh, and we cut to breakfast. No pun intended with cut. So, yes, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to find out who actually gets the chop. I could add in lots of these
Oh,
puns. Maybe there's more on the way. We are at breakfast then next morning. Now, Eliana, you have commented on the food spreads before on this podcast. You were a fan of some cheese boards, maybe back in like season 2 or 3, maybe.
really was.
Um,
I think it may have been season 2. But
yeah.
I'm a huge breakfast fan as well. I don't think we're getting close-ups of the breakfast for my liking, actually. We've had a lot of close-ups of the snacks in the kitchen this series, which
Yes.
there's some I feel like Maz mentioned it in the very first episode, like, oh, snacks, nuts, biscuits. I feel like we've had
Yeah.
a lot of, this is such a boring point, I'm sorry, but food spread. That is a food spread I've noticed.
It's not boring at all. I mean, because I knew you were coming on, I was paying close attention to the breakfast. There's lots of fruit and donuts, and I think salami. Like Claudia made a comment about salami or pepper or meat or something like that one day. I think there's like a cinnamon roll there. It's very tempting to me. Maybe it's all stone cold and stale and horrible, but I just thought I have to ask Eliane about the food. Uh, Fiona is in the first group that arrives and reflects in her confessional, her miv, that to murder someone last night face to face was really, really wicked. That's my Welsh accent. I'm working on it. And I
You'll
want
get
someone to make a wicked meme. I need someone to take that moment of her saying really wicked and put it with like that moment in the film Wicked when like Elphaba is with Fiyero and she says, "It's just for the first time I feel really wicked." Like I want someone to splice those two together. If I had more time, I would have done it myself.
I
But I
think you
need
have
these
to do that
memes.
now. You feed your listeners with this. You can't leave it there. You are the expert on Traitors and Wicked. I mean,
I
you've
know it's my
been on podcasts
crossover.
about Wicked, so this only you can do that, Matthew.
Yeah, or maybe I was thinking like when Madame Morrible is doing her speech through the big megaphones, and she's like, "We must find this distortion, this repulsion, this really wicked witch." Like, so I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on it at
And
the
your
weekend.
Welsh accent's got better the 3 times you've said that as well.
Thank you, thank you. Practice makes perfect. So her group who are here at breakfast are all saying that they're desperate for Maz to come back. In hindsight, now I realise, okay, Fiona knew he wasn't coming back. Yeah, maybe she's playing into that. And Matt says, I would be shooketh if Sam doesn't come back. Because at the last round table, Matthew voted for Sam. He's very suspicious of him, so he reckons, of course he's coming back. I think he's a traitor. And Fiona, she talked about Reese in the previous episode. She's really trying to target him. She says, if Reese comes in now, I am convinced that he's a traitor. So she's really setting him up. And there's been lots of theories online that Fiona and Reese are mother and son. I don't know if you've seen any of this. No way am I buying into that. Like, no way is she setting up her son to be a traitor and get banished like this. Surely it can't be. I don't know if you have any theories about other secret connections in the cast, or if you've heard any of these theories, Eliana. Anyone else you think might be connected?
I've seen, well, of generally, lots and lots of guesses being thrown out there who might be connected to who. I can't tell. It's really difficult to actually spot it, I've realized, when you don't have any kind of inkling. It's not being edited in such a way to, I think, point to or suggest particular people are put together, and that actually did make me realize how sometimes, well, how the edit can really push a narrative. Someone, cutting from someone saying something to someone's head spinning one way immediately, everyone's heads could have spun that way, but because you see that person, you latch onto a theory, and that they must do that with certain relationships as well. And I really,
Yeah.
I think maybe they're editing it very carefully to not give anything away, so it's a real surprise when it comes. Obviously, Ross and Ellie, I didn't see that relationship at all, but after Ellie announced it, they showed those moments where they'd interacted, and you were like, oh well, if I'd noticed that. So
Yeah,
I honestly can't tell. Is my short
yeah.
answer. What do
I
you feel?
I think there might be another one or two, but I kind of don't. I'm getting to the point where I don't really see the point of it. Like, I kind of think if there are more, or if the whole cast is connected, kind of what's the point? Like, it just feels like a bit of a big distraction. Like, already Judy's gone. She was one half of a connection, and now Ross is gone. And it didn't really result in anything. Like, it didn't add anything to the game. That one half leaves, and it just like I just think, what's the point? What does it do? Other than making us go, oh, like have little guessing games and get a little surprise. Oh, they're related. It's kind of done then. So I don't really think there's a point to it anymore. I kind of want them to just stop doing it. I just don't know if it really adds anything.
I agree. I don't know if they thought it would add something. I think maybe if they'd come out in the gameplay at some point, it obviously would have added to the reality a little bit. But m most likely, from what we've seen before, it will result in both of those people being banished at some point, probably,
Yeah,
because it's immediately something to latch on to be suspicious, or even though that doesn't necessarily mean someone's a traitor. Mostly people probably feel like it's unfair that someone has double the chance to win, and kind of want to vote them out for that reason. So for
yeah,
obvious reasons, no one's bringing it up. And even when Judy went and Ross went, yeah, neither of the remaining contestants decided to bring the subject up or confide in anyone that their beloved has just left. So
yeah,
yeah, and there's no reason for anyone to do that now. So yeah, I agree. It hasn't added much, and I can't see going forward. It doesn't need it really. It doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't those reveals.
yeah. I think maybe they're just being influenced or informed, like Studio Lambert, by like series one of UK Traitors, when we had Tom and Alex, who were a couple, and then Tom announced it at breakfast one day. He was like, "She's not a traitor, she's my girlfriend," and like everyone was like, "What?" Oh my god, lost their minds, and that amazing moment of Maddie just turning to Matt and going, "I thought you was going to get with Alex." So I think they just, because that was so explosive and everybody talked about it, and then of course there was the Diane and Paul could be my son, but Ross is, like, because that became so iconic. I think they just like want to recreate that again, but it's difficult to capture that lightning in a bottle. So I think they're just desperately chasing like more of those reveals that are really explosive. But I don't know.
I'm surprised that if there were any more existing relationships, that they haven't announced it in the MIVs at least, because at least that adds an extra layer
Yeah,
for viewers, and it doesn't necessarily have to be announced in the reality if they don't want to do that, if they're worried it'll affect their gameplay. But what's the point in having them in if they're not even drip feeding them to the viewers now and again? They don't have to tell us
yeah,
everything at once, but if they're still there, let us know. Maybe we might notice something different about the dynamics that could be interesting. Yeah, I don't get
yes,
the point if we really don't know about it.
yeah, agreed. Back to breakfast. The next group arrives, including Rachel, and they remember how in the mission yesterday, Reese just sort of let Fiona give skulls away to other people. I get why they're clinging on to that. Like, that does seem suspicious, and you're just, I guess, as a faithful, you're always looking for reasons to find something to pick another player to vote for them for. I mean, I kind of get why Reese was like, just ask Fiona. I think it was so obvious in the mission that Fiona was like, she just had wandered off. I think she had no real intention of trying to save Reese, and I think Reese knew that. So yeah, I think Reese was like, I'm never going to win this mission. Like, she's not coming back with 10 skulls and stacking them up, so just ask her. But I also see that it's a bad look. The other players are going to cling to it and see fault with it. So they're talking about that. Rachel says, I think he thought, I'm safe, just give the skulls out. So I think Rachel's implying that Reese is a traitor as well, and she's planting this seed that, oh, he was just so relaxed, he didn't think he had anything to worry about. Or maybe she's just suggesting that he's a really poor player. I think she's implying that he's maybe a traitor. We are down to the final four already to come back. So yes, it's either Maz, Reese, Sam, or Stephen. We know that. We know Stephen's definitely coming back. And Sam arrives. Yep, we knew that. We saw that at the top of the episode. We get a little bit of Faraz and Mev saying he's not surprised. He thinks Sam's a traitor. I think Faraz voted for Sam previously. And Sam describes to the others what happened last night. This is a great opportunity for players to pick up. This has happened in a few series now, where some players experience something at night that not everybody experiences. So you have to rely on those few players to tell you the truth. So yeah, Sam's got this moment to say, well, I was in the cage, and then the guy with the axe came, or the woman, maybe it was a woman, and chopped the rope, and that got freed, and that. But it's a chance for people to catch other players out. Maybe they'll tell the story a little bit differently. And Sam says, if I was a traitor, I'd probably murder Stephen. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why he thinks this, but it's maybe going to raise suspicions when Stephen does come back. And Jack even says, "Oh, I'd be really gutted if Stephen doesn't come back." So my point is, I think Sam and Jack are sure Stephen must be a faithful. If they're saying things like that, if they're saying, "Well, I'd murder Stephen," oh, I'm going to be gutted if he doesn't come back. I wonder if when Stephen walks in, they go, "Oh, that's weird. I would have got rid of you." Anyway, there's a knock at the door. Stephen does arrive, and Fiona goes, really want to do her accent, and I'm, I'm just not there yet. She says, "There's no way Stephen's a no, I'm just Scouse. It's Scouse. I go into Scouse. There's no way Stephen's a traitor." She just sort of says it instantly. I wondered if it was a bit obvious that Fiona's just instantly like, "Oh, Stephen's here. Definitely not a traitor." Like, I don't know. I would just wonder if anyone's like, "Okay, Fiona, a bit much." I don't know.
She is backing her traitor at this point in the series, isn't she? Though she is
Yes.
showing herself. She's attempting to be a team player, a team as being team traitors player.
Yes. For now. With Stephen, yes, absolutely.
With Stephen, because
And
she then obviously notices Rachel doesn't do the same.
yeah,
In
yes.
terms of backing him, and really points that out. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, Fiona's so early as on Rachel's case. Like, I think she, even from the moment she sort of met the traitors in the turret and it was revealed, she seemed to be suspicious of Rachel straight away. Like, there was just something not quite right between them. I didn't really even ask you what you thought of Fiona as secret traitor. Was that a surprise to you? Had you guessed it might be her?
it was a surprise to me. I hadn't guessed it was. I think she was playing it really, really well.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely flying under the radar. Uh, yeah, I think she was brilliant. And then I'm very, very, very glad that she is the secret traitor because she's really turned up the entertainment, I think, in the last two. Um,
Yes.
But particularly, we're getting more screen time with her now, which is lovely. I thought she always did look a little bit smug in the master interviews in those first few. But I was like, that's just her character, that's her personality. It's nice to see this side to her, and I'm like, oh, that's why you were looking a bit smug. I hadn't read into that.
Yeah.
Just quite confident in herself. But it's nice to see her kind of in her element. And yeah, I think she's been a very entertaining addition. I've really liked the secret traitor thing because I think overall this series it has just set the traitors off on sort of a wrong footing, and they've not been those like day ones, they've not all been together from the start, meaning it's been slightly easier for there to be suspicion within the traitors. They're not they thought they knew the game, and then it was all sort of turned on its head right from the beginning, which I think is which then comes out in this episode a lot. And perhaps that's merely it, the sort of distrust between Fiona and Rachel. I think Rachel, when Fiona was welcomed into that inner circle, there was a bit of distrust coming from maybe Rachel and Stephen, sort of voiced early on. She's been uh, she's playing a different game to us, I think they said. So we're not too sure about her yet. And Fiona must have felt that and immediately kind of got suspicious back. So I think it's quite a fun dynamic in that Traitors circle at the minute. It's made the game a lot harder for them, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's also been a genius move just in terms of marketing. Like the viewing figures for episode 4, which was the reveal of the secret traitor, was I think 7.4 million people overnight watched it, which is I think even bigger than the launch episode. Like it just had so many.
Wow.
It was all over radio and TV and all over social media. So because it was just this excellent talking point, I think they knew what they were doing. It was a brilliant way to, like, 4 episodes in, maybe the figures drop a little bit just to get everyone watching on that Wednesday night as it was being broadcast to find out, who's the traitor. We can't have it spoiled on social media. We've got to watch it live. So genius on that level, I think, to keep people viewing.
And merchandise, because everyone's already
right.
green capes, as we can see in the very creepy background of your setup, that there is a looming green cape. And they're already selling red capes, which is amazing. I've seen them like all over social media, a little capes on sale.
Maybe I should just spray paint this one, and like next episode it should be red, just so I could catch up. But I need a red cape. I need a secret. Although if it never comes back in any other series, maybe it'll date very quickly. I don't care. It'll be a collector's item.
You can sell it in years' time for loads of money.
Yes, and maybe I'll even meet Fiona somewhere and she can sign it for me, and it'll. No, I couldn't give that away. That would be. I take it back, Fiona. If you're listening, I didn't mean it. I would keep it forever. So Stephen arrives. Yes, he's at breakfast, and he describes, like Sam did, what played out last night. And there's this moment that, in retrospect, I kind of see why they kept it in the episode. Because at the time, I thought it was a bit inconsequential. Amanda jumped on him because he says. Stephen says, "Oh, Reese and Maz were left after me," and she's like, "How do you know Reese was first?" And she sort of misheard him a bit, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't say Reese was first. I just said Reese and Maz were still there." And she's like, "Oh, I thought you said Reese left after you." And I thought, okay, she made a little mistake. Why did they bother including that in the edit? But now that we know what ends up happening at the end of it, I thought, oh, maybe it was to give us a little bit of proof that Amanda sort of jumped on things like that quite a lot, or some of the other players accused her of trying to lead discussion and trying to encourage things to move in a particular way or manipulate. So maybe that was just an example of Amanda doing just that, and that's why they kept it in there, perhaps. It's also really funny because in the previous episode, like episode 4, she had just said, "Oh yeah, I need to stop doing that. I need to stop acting like a detective. I need to be more chilled. People are not trusting me. They think I'm being too influential." And next day at breakfast, "Wait a minute, what did you say?"
I do find it hilarious that she's decided to hide the fact that she's a police officer, but all kind of actually say that she's a police officer has been totally. Like the kinds of words she uses, it has been raising an eyebrow. I think people have been a little suspicious of her because you can tell she's lying about something. She acts with such authority. People are like, why does she believe she has such authority? And then that leads towards, well, maybe because she's quite confident as a traitor, but it's her career coming through, all of her, experience that she has, and sort of her conviction. She didn't hide it very well.
Yeah. And despite the mistake she makes, she still turns to Rachel and says, "Well, I suspect Stephen and Sam, of course, they're sitting at the end of the table together because they came in most recently." And Rachel's like, "Well, oh yeah, I'm there with Sam. I'm going to watch Stephen." I mean, I thought she was just appeasing Amanda. But like you said, Fiona overhears it, doesn't like it, describes Rachel as a lone wolf. And yeah, I don't know if Rachel is. Like, maybe I'm very naive. I think Rachel is in it with Stephen. Like, I do think she isn't planning to betray him at this point. I thought she was just saying it to Amanda to appear like a faithful and be like, "Oh yeah, maybe I should look." I don't think she meant it, but who knows? So now they're waiting for either Reese or Maz to return. The consensus amongst the players seems to be that Reese will be coming back. I think because he's got a lot of heat on him, they probably suspect, yeah, the traitors are probably going to keep him around because a lot of us think he is a traitor, which makes no sense because then he would have to be a traitor himself to keep. Anyway, or they think he's a traitor, so he's not going to get murdered because he can't murder himself. And Harriet even says, if Reese doesn't come back, I'll eat my hat. And Matt says, yeah, if Maz comes back, I'll have to look at him. Like I can't see this. And then knock knock on the door, it opens. Lots of reaction shots. Suggest a happy response. We see Matt smiling. So I sort of thought, okay, it must be Reese. And indeed we flash back to the woods. Maz and Reese are waiting. The executioner's walking back and forth. Big chop. Reese is freed. Maz congratulates him. Off he goes. The traitors approach from the woods, and they stop in front of Maz. And I've written here that they unhood. Is unhood a word? They unhood. I think it's a word.
You can make it a word. Be
Yeah,
Shakespeare for a moment. Why not? You know, just come up with your own traitors lexicon of words. Do it.
If I use it enough, it becomes a word. So they unhood, and Fiona, does her spiel that she's obviously been told to say. Maz, by order of the traitors, you have been murdered. Was that? No, that was. I should just stop. I can do some other accents. Welsh, just. I need a Welsh coach. Don't worry, I'll be getting to some Adam impressions later, and I feel I'm much stronger with Adam. She gives some.
You've got a lot to choose from. From all series of the traitors, you've got a lot to choose from.
There's too many dialects, regional.
Who was it? Who it was her whole thing to pretend to be Welsh when she?
Oh yes, Charlotte. Charlotte last series pretended to be Welsh. There's something in it. Coach. She would. I should really get on to Charlotte and ask for lessons, absolutely. So, yeah, Fiona says he's been murdered and then gives him a letter, which is hilarious. Like, does he need the letter? You just told him. And he takes his chance to tell Stephen that he thought he was a traitor, basically. But turns to the woman and says, you two, what's Maz's accent? You two, you let me down badly. I think he's Northern. You've let me down. Stephen, I'm not surprised. Is that what Maz sounds like? And he says in his miv that he thinks Rachel and Fiona are playing a great game. I'm going to play my cliche klaxon because Maz gives us a cliche of traitors all around the world. He says, I must have unnerved them, scared them a little bit. So players often get murdered and then think it's because they were a big threat and they were... Maz, I don't think you were a threat. I'm sorry. I don't think that's why they murdered you. I think you were just a quiet player who was probably not going to get banished and you weren't really going to help them. Sorry, Maz.
Positive spin. It's because he seemed like quite a nice guy. You know, people liked him, and that's a threat because people who are liked get through to the end, essentially.
Okay, could look at it that way. Yes, it's a threat in that sense. Okay, thank you, Elliana. Back at breakfast then, Reese returns and Fiona asks him about what happened and he does his explanation. I think he messes up a bit, not deliberately. You know, I think he just, it's almost like he misunderstood things. He says, oh yeah, well obviously I knew that once it was just me and Maz, he was a faithful. And he says, because obviously a faithful or a traitor can't be murdered, and he gets a bit emotional. But Matthew picks up on it and says, wait a minute, how does that prove that Maz was a faithful when it was just two of you? What if he was a traitor and he came out of the cage and then you were murdered? And he's saying, you know, that could have happened. And Reese tries to explain again and messes up a bit. And he's saying, yeah, if he was, he's saying, like, I know I'm a faithful, so I think Reese hadn't considered the fact that Maz at that point could have still been a traitor and could have come out of the... I think maybe what he should have said is, once I was freed from my cage, I knew that Maz was therefore murdered and he was a faithful and I felt bad. But I mean, he just got things a little mixed up.
Poor Reese. I think he was just over explaining. He's quite downtrodden in this episode. Like he's sort of given. He had a rough previous night, didn't he? And then this episode, he is just quite. He feels like his fate has been sealed.
Yeah, I feel really sorry for Reese this entire episode. Pretty much, he seems like a very lovely guy, really sweet, gets emotional, and he's just come under so much fire. I know there's a couple of reasons why, like James didn't like when he was in the mission and he kept going on about finding a shield. Okay, like there's been maybe one other thing. I don't know what the terrible thing is that Reese has done that so many of them assume he's a traitor. How do you feel about Reese?
Yeah, he seems he overdoes it a little sometimes, and he's done a few kind of self-sacrificey things. And
That's
you know
true,
what?
yes.
Maybe because he was so on about wanting a shield, and obviously that brought suspicion upon him from someone. He kind of went too far the other way, and he was like, "Okay, no, I don't want the shields. I don't, I'm a faithful. You have all the sort of advantages." And he's sort of now doing this self-sacrifice thing that's also not working for him. So maybe he's just sort of doing extremes slightly too much. But like you said, he's
Hmm.
slightly more emotional, which is not a bad thing. But unfortunately, people will use that to jump on and read into. But no, he seems very sweet. He's had a rough time, particularly the night before this episode, right? He came very, very close to being banished. So he's quite shaken today.
Yeah. Um, and I guess that continues into the mission later, that the way that he kind of sacrifices himself and it ends up coming under scrutiny. So yeah, although at the same, yeah, maybe he has gone from one extreme to the other. I also feel like he sort of can't win. Sort of like whatever Reese does, they are picking on it. So but we'll get to the mission though. Of course, Claudia arrives to give us her little hint about what the mission will be. She arrives at breakfast and says that Maz was brutally murdered by the traitors. Which is over the top. Like he wasn't actually murdered. He wasn't, let alone brutally murdered. And down comes the portrait. Claudia says, "Take a last look at Maz." Um, and says something else about, oh, the last thing he saw was the traitors and so on. So she gives them their little clue and says, "You could say the traitors are getting bolder, but today you'll all be playing with fire." Fire, fire! Oh my god, fire! It's something to do with fire. So, someone's getting fired. It's a crossover with The Apprentice. So off she goes. We get some reality time around the castle. Sam is claiming that he wasn't nervous. He knew he was coming back, presumably because he knew he had heat on him. He knew that some people suspected him of being a traitor, so he knew that the traitors wouldn't get rid of him. I can't figure out Sam. Sometimes I find him incredibly off-putting, and it gives the impression of being a bit, cocky. And then other episodes, he's been a bit more withdrawn, and he's realised, oh, I've made too many mistakes. Maybe I should just be quiet. Now I think the confidence has come back, and he's maybe needs to just be a bit more chill, Sam.
Yeah, he
If
was
you
kind
want
of
to,
he was reeling from leading the charge on Judy and that not, working out in the way he wanted it to. But like you
yeah,
say, there's been enough time now that he's sort of stepping back into the game a little more. Yeah.
yes, and I've got a lot of people thought that he might be the secret traitor because he sort of gives these little cheeky grins and his mivs and so on. We see Fiona talking to Reese and says, "You are either an absolute faithful or an absolute." I will just stop it now. I'm so sorry.
That one
She
is a
says he's either okay.
Although I am not one to judge whether it's a good or bad Welsh accent. To be honest, maybe yeah.
I will just stop. Although I do have another accent coming up. She says you're either an absolute faithful or an absolute traitor, and I thought, so just like everyone, like everyone in the game is either an absolute faithful or not. Like there's no other option. And it reminds me of this is very niche, but I have to talk about it because I can't think about anything else at this moment. There's a really funny story about Celine Dion in her Vegas show many years ago. The comedian Kathy Griffin told this story and it cracks me up. It's one of my favourite comedian stories ever. She tells the story of going to see Celine Dion at Vegas and how Celine says the most insane thing to the audience that makes no sense and it cracks me up. Celine says to the audience, "May I sit with you for a moment?" And she comes and sits in front of the audience and she says, "This next song is for all the parents and also the children." which is just everyone. Like
Everybody.
everyone's a child. So,
Like you're
so
saying
Fiona
something
saying
quite
this,
profound without saying anything at all, really.
yes. Um, this next song is for all the people with eyes and all the people with no eyes. It's like I don't Fiona just made me think of that. You're either an absolute faithful or an absolute traitor. Yes, and yeah,
You
Reese
know
is
what?
like kind of given.
It's a safe place for Fiona to sit, like no one's taking offense to that. It's like, yeah, I think
I
so. You're not accused of being too
guess.
quiet, but you're also not accused of kind of pointing fingers at anyone. When you say something
Yes.
like that, you're just a perfect middle ground. And
Yeah,
she
she's
has
covering.
before. She's like, I'm playing the dotty Welsh woman. And I think it's
Yeah.
those kind of statements where you see her playing quite well.
Yeah, and Reese, yeah, because he just hugs her and he's like, "Oh, I know," and he's like kind of given up. He thinks no one believes him anymore. I feel very bad for him. Uh, do you know in my notes I've written about Ellie, the player, and I was like, "Why are you're Ellie?" But it's a different Ellie. Ellie, because I've written Ellie talks to Stephen. What? Ellie talks to Stephen in the kitchen about suspecting Amanda and again how influential she can be sometimes. Fiona appears while they're talking about this, so she's hearing what everybody's talking about. She knows maybe who's going to be up for potential banishment tonight. We then, I think we head outside because I've just written the word peacock in giant capital letters. Peacock! I think it's because one of the listeners sent me a message saying, "Where's the peacock?" Apparently. I don't know.
So you
Someone
look
sent me a
for it every
message.
single time.
Yeah, someone said, "Oh, we see shots of the peacock, but we haven't heard its call. But we do hear it here." So I just made a note. So, listener who sent me that message, that we do have the peacock going, "Roar!" And that was my new accent. Uh, Adam, aka Danny Dyer, outside is talking to Jesse and Harriet. "I think it's Stephen, Roxy, and Jade." And he talks about, there was another accent, and talks about how red and harassed Stephen looked at breakfast. Yes, he does, poor Stephen. And Jessie agrees, but she's scared to bring up Stephen again. She just doesn't think enough people suspect him at this point. She wants to make sure that, she didn't want to be the only one to vote for Stephen, and then it all falls apart. And there's a really sweet moment of Jessie talking in her Miv. I really like Jessie. She talks about her stammer and says, "Actually, it's made me really resilient." But, figuratively, it's difficult to have your voice heard. Sometimes people don't maybe take her seriously or don't take the time to listen. So I really like her, and I like the moments where people are just sort of giving her time to speak. And I want her to do well. I want her to go far. I love how she's on to Stephen really early. Like, she's very astute that she's
She's a
noticed
good
this.
traitor hunter. And she's not
Yeah,
afraid to kind of speak her mind, but she's also quite clever about it. So
yeah.
she's a good faithful. Yeah.
Yes, I want her to not be murdered. I hope she sort of can do something with her knowledge. We cut to the library. We've got Sam talking to Rachel, Matt, Roxy, and Amanda. And Sam has decided on a new hypothesis that a traitor must have been in one of the other cages to kill Maz. Now, he happens to be correct, sort of by chance. Yes, Stephen was. That doesn't have to have been true. And Stephen being in the cage doesn't he didn't have to be there. Like, there was nothing to do with how Maz was murdered. The traitors were always going to appear in their cloaks through the woods. So it's just an example of players who come up with a theory and are 100% convinced about it, and they talk about it like it's fact and there's no other way. And he also theorizes, probably correctly this time, that they should look at who's really tired, because the traitors, like always, maybe even more this time, would have had to have been up late filming this murder scene out in the woods and so on.
Is this a
That
traitor's cliche moment? Because I feel like I've heard this quite most series it's brought up, like all the traitors will be a bit more tired. So
does come up
it,
sometimes,
it does.
yes. Yes, like in the Celebrity UK Traitors, Stephen Fry brought it up at one of the round tables, you're right.
What I
And
do
it
like
ends up, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say what I like about this moment is he adds on. Oh no, someone then says, who's getting extra coffee today? And then you cut to a shot of Rachel literally drinking out of a mug of probably coffee or tea, kind of like, oh dear.
Well, the weird thing is, it's Rachel who says it. Rachel is the one who
What?
says who's
I missed
drinking
that.
extra coffee while she's drinking extra coffee.
I thought someone, I honestly didn't I think I didn't even believe that she would say that while incriminating herself. And I guess maybe someone else must have
Yeah.
said that. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
it was actually Rachel, which is hilarious. Maybe they all have coffee, but so she doesn't really is not the odd one out. Like maybe people in other rooms all have coffee too, but yeah, it is Rachel, which is hilarious. Um, and this moment does come up later. Like it ends up surfacing at the round table. This conversation about people being tired and so on. Sam then names Reese as his main suspect. And again, I'm not fully understanding why Reese has so much heat on him. But it's time for the mission. We're in the cars, we're heading there. Amanda points out that Reese genuinely actually looked really upset at breakfast, whereas Sam and Stephen weren't quite behaving like that. Maybe they were a bit more relaxed. Therefore, Amanda, I think, is saying she doesn't. She believes Reese. She doesn't really think that he's a traitor. She buys that he's quite upset about what's going on. They arrive in a field to huge metal demon things, as well as metal
Minotaur,
shields. Yeah,
Viking.
sort of minotaurs, yeah. Uh, there are shields with the players' names on them. Claudia's here, resplendent in some sort of woolen sheep thing. It's great. And
Classic Traitors scene, basically.
yeah, perfect. She describes what's going to happen in the mission. They have to venture into the woods, find spears, light them at the fire pit, and drive them into the beasts to set them alight. They'll have 20 minutes, and every beast set alight equals £1,000 added to the prize pot. But there's a twist, and it's the shields. Every time a player puts one of the spears into the big metal beast, they have to name a player whose shield they want to eliminate. And Claudia tells them that they can play how they want, they can do it in groups, pairs, go it alone, gives them a bit of time to discuss, and they split into these sort of natural friendship groups. So let's go through them. We've got Sam, Stephen, Adam, and Reese, the lads, as I will refer to them as. We've got Fiona, Rachel, Roxy, and Harriet, the Huns. It's a bit like X Factor boot camp when they put these sort of groups together. Like, right, you've got 24 hours to practice this Rihanna song. Then we have Jade, Ellie, Jesse, and Matt. I think it's giving me theatre camp, theatre kids, quite cool, quite sort of, quirky, not hipster, but yeah, they're all sort of like, they're quite unique, quite distinctive. And then we've got Faraz, James, Jack, and Amanda. It's Hufflepuff. I'm saying it's Hufflepuff. It's this sort of mishmash. Or it's like Amanda's like the PE teacher, and they're like her badminton team behind her, or something like that. They're off to the tournament. The mission begins. Theatre Camp decides to eliminate Sam because they think he's a traitor. No, I've got an issue with this mission. Well, not an issue with the mission. I've got an issue with the way that the players play the mission. And we've got a question about this from a listener a bit later on. Matt says this thing. His explanation is, let's save one person from potential murder. So he thinks, let's make sure that who we think the traitors are don't have shields. I think this just makes no sense. I think this doesn't work because one person is going to be murdered no matter what you do. Like, you're not going to stop a murder from happening. So it doesn't matter how many people end up with a shield. Like, you're not really doing the faithful any favours. This happened in the Celebrity UK series, something similar, and I had a gripe with it that I couldn't stop talking about. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't. Someone is going to be murdered. One of the faithful is going to get murdered tonight. Matt, you're not stopping that from happening. So,
I suppose by putting them up for murder, if someone you suspect to be a traitor doesn't get murdered, maybe you can double down on that, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
that's true. It's like
And you
a
might,
bit of further circumstantial evidence to be like, well, I thought you were a traitor
yeah,
anyway, and you still haven't been murdered. Does that mean something?
like I agree it doesn't do much at all. There's no sort of, it's not confirming anything, but perhaps yeah, it might back up something you already suspect, just a tiny bit if they
Hmm.
come back. And if they don't come back, it might force you to change direction because you go, oh, I was really wrong about that.
Yes,
Um,
that's true. Yes, good point.
Potentially.
Yeah. There's a very dramatic thrusting of a spear into the demon with, I think it's Matthew going, Sam! And Claudia just screams, £1,000 added and Sam might die! Which is already, I've seen it's like a meme on Instagram and stuff. Classic Claudia. The lads arrive next. They discover Sam's shield's up in flames. And Reese then says, look, let's just choose my shields. Just sacrifice me. Someone's going to pick me. And he kind of just literally takes it out of their hands. He grabs the spear, makes the decision. And Sam's wondering, is he a really clever traitor and he's doing this to himself? This is where I thought Reese can't really win. Like, if Reese desperately wants a shield, some players think he's a traitor. If he says he doesn't care if he's got a shield, some players think he's a traitor. Um,
Also, I
yeah,
think
so
it if he sort of says, "Oh, just put me up for murder," like that, even if people don't, and I know this isn't the game, but if even if people don't believe he's a traitor, he would be the easiest faithful to get rid of if in doubt. You know, if in doubt, he's kind of saying that he's slightly given up on the game at that moment.
mm,
You know,
yeah,
and so if you really don't know who to vote for, you might go, well, Reese is sort of checked out, so you know, if everyone else really, really wants to be there and very clearly do, he's weakened his argument
mhm,
to remain there a little bit. I mean, I know that's a slightly different game going on there, but that, you know, it's like you say, either way, I don't see him winning at all. He's weakened
yeah.
his position a little bit.
It also, this isn't relevant to the mission. It just, for some reason, struck me at this moment because it was Reese, and I was thinking about what he'd been doing in the game. I suddenly remembered he still hasn't told anyone, as far as we know, about Rachel and Stephen standing in front of the family tree picture and how he
Yeah,
left them alone. Like it's like
yeah.
he's totally forgotten that. And I want, like, is he going to suddenly remember it later? I don't know. I just want to be like, Reese, you've got this like golden thing you could tell people to save you, and you've not remembered it. Uh, the Huns
He's
are
too wrapped
next.
up in his own demise. It's so sad.
I
He can't
know.
see
Yeah,
the
I
traitors are
know.
right in front of him, but he can just see himself going. It's so sad.
Come on, Reese, come back to us. Uh, the Huns are up next. They sacrifice Jade, whilst Jade is literally standing like 5 feet away. And Jade says she doesn't realise people were that suspicious of her. Like she knows Amanda's been on her case this whole time. She didn't know other people were thinking of her. And yeah, I felt like the whole game was being played very strangely. They were all basing their decisions on their decisions about what shields to get rid of on who they think is most likely to be a traitor. But I guess we've just talked about this. I still just thought someone's going to be murdered. You're not going to save every single faithful, but maybe it is what you said. Maybe you're giving yourself a little bit of further evidence about someone you suspect. Um, Next up, it's the theatre kids. They, in retaliation, well, not retaliation, they set Amanda's shield on fire because Jade is leading that, and there's a bit of beef between those two. The lads have got the next spear. Sam wants to target Fiona because she hasn't had much heat, no pun intended, at Round Table yet. And um, okay. I sort of didn't quite understand that, but Stephen is in that group. He's one of the lads. He's very reticent to act on this. Obviously, he knows she's a fellow traitor, but he can't protest too much. He can't make it really obvious that he's trying to protect Fiona, so he reluctantly goes along with it, which was probably the wise thing to do. And I sort of thought Stephen doesn't need to worry about this. There's no real consequence. There's probably going to be like 10 people whose shields get destroyed here if they find all of the spears. Um, it's fine. Like 1 in 9 or 10 people is going to be murdered. Fiona being on that list isn't really a big problem to worry about, I don't think. Theatre Camp goes for Stephen next. Again, they see him as being a big traitor suspect. Hufflepuff destroy Ellie's shield. classic Hufflepuff. She does look like a Malfoy. She's got that long white blonde hair, so I can see why the
Okay.
Hufflepuff team might have done this. The Huns target Faraz, which it's just this mission's hilarious. Like you've got Harriet, the barrister, just plunging a metal spear into a big beast thing, going Faraz. It is actually a little bit like sort of Wizarding World, and
Casting a spell, yeah.
James. James finds the ninth spear. There's a wee bit of a moment here in the episode I didn't quite understand. Claudia told us there were 10 beasts and 10 spears, but they act like the ninth spear's the last one. Because like, they're all talking in the woods and they go, we found 8, we found 8. And James goes, I found the last one. So something's not, the math is not mathing.
Mm.
James spears Matthew, not literally. The mission ends, £9,000 banked. It's absolutely pissing with rain in Scotland again, which is not good for Claudia's hair, I think, and not the sheep coat. Like, someone needs to get her an umbrella. The people not protected from murder are Reese, Jade, Sam, Amanda, Faraz, Fiona, Ellie, Stephen, and Matthew. And we know there are 2 traitors in there. Claudia tells them to get dry and for goodness sake have a biscuit. Off they go. In the cars on the way back to the castle, Rachel is saying she thinks the traitors would have loved that. Of course, Rachel is a traitor. She's saying, I think the traitors would have loved that mission. It'll make everyone paranoid. They'll just sit back and watch that unfold. Yes, the traitors probably will be loving that. Rachel would know. And Amanda finds out from Matt that Jade chose to destroy her shield, which is kind of obvious. Like Amanda and Jade have been voting for each other a lot. Amanda shouldn't really be that surprised, I don't think. And Sam talks about how it was so obvious that he, Reese, and Stephen, of course, they were going to get their shields destroyed. They were on death row in the cages last night. Everyone's a bit suspicious of them. Everyone thinks one of them might be a traitor. Okay, I mean, I don't know how that's really going to prove anything, but okay, fine, whatever. So back to the castle. Some reality time before round table. In the kitchen, Jade says that she suspects Amanda, but she's not going to keep voting for her if no one else does. She doesn't want to keep wasting her vote. And James also says, James is like, yeah, Amanda's my number 2 suspect behind Reese. James just seems to have an endless list of suspects in every episode that's just ever changing. It's got like 10 people on it. He's always like, here's my list, here's my top 4. And it's always it's a new person every time.
Everyone
Amanda, everyone but him. Amanda talks in her confessional and says, 9 people are up for murder and I believe 3 of them are traitor, which definitely reduces my odds. And yeah, I thought this kind of just
was it a bit hammy?
reminds.
This bit.
Oh,
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. It sort of made me think. Yes, Amanda, you're right. If because you think you've put up lots of because you think you got rid of shields of traitors, you've left fewer faithful to choose from. So back to what Matthew said away at the start of the mission when he was like, guys, we have to help the faithful. I thought, actually, Matthew, this strategy has just made the faithful without shields feel worse. Like you've made them feel like they've got an even worse chance of not surviving. So you weren't really helping the faithful at all. I'll stop talking about it now. Amanda then comes to Rachel and Faraz. They're eating and asks to speak to Rachel alone. What's going to happen? What's going on? And I think people really need to stop doing this. Stop doing these. Like, can you give us a moment? It always looks so sus. And
I
Amanda,
haven't. It feels like it's happening so much in this series. It's almost become a norm with this group of people that sometimes people do this and then no one brings it up as suspicious, really. I would
yeah,
be scared to do that as well. I feel like as soon as you're going off and talking to someone, you don't want anyone else to listen, then everyone's going to claim, you're keeping secrets, you're not a truthful person, maybe you're talking with your
yeah,
fellow traitors, scheming. Uh, Even, when faithfuls are doing it, like Amanda's doing it, you don't know if the sort of secret mission that happened the previous night. If something
mhm.
like that was to happen, you're going to be the first suspect for it. I don't get why they're so comfortable doing this either. It terrifies me.
Yeah. It scares me unless the answer is simply that because they are all doing it so often, it loses. power. Like it doesn't become so strange. Like maybe that is just the not. Maybe they're doing it all the time and always going off in pairs and threes. So maybe that makes you not suspect it because it's just like they've just accepted that's what you're allowed to do. And I don't know, but it is a bit weird to be like, for us, leave us alone, close the door, like. And she wants to tell Rachel about her former career. So she says, I was a detective and whatever her job was with the Met Police. And
This really
Rachel's just like,
surprised me that she decided to do this suddenly. This is what I meant by was this bit a little bit hammy? Like it
okay,
felt like it'd been wedged in there a little bit. I was like, I get Amanda sort of explain then why she wanted to do it, but I I didn't see the need for it so much. Um,
yeah.
mm.
I mean, and of course, it's just utterly ironic that the one person she tells and is like, I really trust you, is the one person that she shouldn't trust, and therefore she's not great at reading micro expressions and body
Yeah, yeah.
language and knowing when someone's lying. And for a minute, I mean, I knew that Amanda didn't suspect Rachel, but I wonder if Rachel was like, oh my God. I wonder if Rachel thought Amanda was going to say, I'm a detective, I'm amazing at reading people, I know you're the traitor. So Rachel's just sort of like frozen, smiling,
Yeah.
laughing a little bit uncomfortably. But I mean, very quickly, Amanda's like, I'm only going to tell you this, I trust you. So Rachel can, you know, chill and lay back. Uh, and of course, this ends up being super important later in the episode, incredibly pivotal. Pivotal? That's just not a word. Pivotal.
No, you can't make that one up. I'm sorry.
Pivotable is not a thing. I'm sorry. Pivotal. In the billiard room, Reese again says this thing that isn't true. I talked about this on the most recent episode of the pod. He says, I've been up for every murder. He absolutely hasn't. He was in the cage last night, and there was one day when he came into breakfast in the last group of people, but he didn't know that meant there was a secret traitor shortlist. He just get. I don't know if I'm missing something. Like, other the first day, like he absolutely has not been out for murder every day, and I don't know why he keeps saying that. Uh, Listeners, if I'm missing something very simple, please tell me. Anyway, Reese tells the others who are there, that's Fiona, Jesse, and James, that he doesn't think anyone else in the cages with him was a traitor, which I think is a mistake. I think Reese ought to just say, yeah, I think one of them was it. Like, just if other people have this theory that's not about you, Reese, just go along with it. Just be like, yeah, it
Yeah.
is Stephen, or maybe it was Sam. Like, don't be like, no, it wasn't them, guys. Like, don't do that to yourself, Reese. But he does name a new traitor. He thinks, uh, sorry, James names Stephen now. He's got a new name on his list. And Reese theorizes that the traitors really ought to have killed Stephen because only one person had ever voted for him. I do wonder if that might tell Reese something. Like if he might just go, wait a minute, yeah, that is weird. Stephen's only ever had one vote, so that suggests he's not super high on people's list. He's not, but yet the traitors didn't murder him. That's really. I wonder if Reese could have just like pieced together that that was unusual, but I don't think he
You know what?
does.
I think this happens sometimes where faithfuls shoot themselves in the foot because they get so wrapped up in what's happening to them and they're panicking about their own fate that they just can't see the evidence in front of them. They can't think straight and actually kind of start planting other seeds or agreeing and operating in a considered,
Yeah,
wise way. And I think this is Reese's in this whole episode is kind of spiraling and all he can think about, like you said, he said I've been up for every murder and he absolutely hasn't, but all he can think about is he feels so targeted when actually he's not necessarily. Obviously it was like neck and neck at the previous round table, but you things change so quickly in this show, and everyone could have basically forgotten about that by the next day, but he almost keeps bringing the heat back on himself by saying things like that. Like, I'd stop bringing yourself up, Reese. Just start saying other names. Just listen. Just agree. Stop panicking.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's sort of what he's struggling to do here. Mm.
yeah. Reese, you need to have a sit down with Jessie, and she can give you some advice about how to play maybe a better faithful game, perhaps. Uh,
Mm.
it's time for the round table. Coming in, there's always a bit of a clue in the editing about where the round table's going, because when the players slow motion walk through the corridor to head to the round table, you get little mivs, usually from 2 or 3 players. In this case, it's Reese, Stephen, and Amanda. So like 95% of the time, that's a little bit of like televisual language for us that, oh, that's important. Why are they showing us these 3 people? It's probably one of those 3 who's about to be banished. So I reckon it's going to be one of them. They come in, Claudia arrives, prize fund is £42,750, and she also reminds the players that their friends might be lying to them or even planning to murder them. The discussion begins. Jessie starts off. She's talking again about the idea that Ross was framed, and it's this thing that keeps coming up over and over, that when Ben was still in the game, on Ben's final night, he said, I think Ben's a traitor, and if I'm murdered, I think Ross is the traitor, and if I'm murdered, look to Ross. And he said it in a room with like 4 other people. Next day, Ben's murdered. Lots of people think it's Ross. Now they know, oh, Ross was not a traitor. He's been banished and he was a faithful. So Jessie's still on this, and she's saying, why are we not looking at who was in that room? And she says, maybe we should take the people in that room, compare them to the 9 people who were on the Cage shortlist yesterday, because she kind of assumes one of them's a traitor. And she names Stephen, and she's right. And we cut to Stephen just like taking a drink, like red and nervous. And Jessie goes through the 4 people left in the cages and says, yes, Stephen was there. And points out, I guess, what I was talking about a few minutes ago. She's like, why was Stephen not murdered last night? He's not had that much heat at the round table. He's only had 1 vote. Why did the traitors not get rid of him? Wasn't he the least likely to get banished? And Faraz backs that up. So Faraz is a bit suspicious of Stephen, but Stephen has to defend himself. He disagrees. He's like, no, I don't think I was the obvious choice for murder more than Maz. He says, I have had more heat on me, even though he's only had 1 vote. He does know that people are talking about him. He's like, I know that people have been talking about the Ross framing situation. So even if I haven't had lots of votes, there is heat on me. And he says Maz didn't really have much heat in him at all. In fact, Stephen is the only person who had ever voted for Maz when he tried to frame him last night, and just like no one else really bought into it. Amanda comes in next, and kind of unsurprisingly, Amanda says that she's going to vote for Jade again. I'm covering my face because Amanda, let this go. Stop voting for Jade. No one else is listening.
A traitor your secret that you are an amazing traitor hunter, or you should be due to your credentials, and then immediately go for the wrong person.
Yeah. And if anyone watched Uncloaked, there's Amanda even talks about this. You know, they have the moment in Uncloaked where the players the next morning find out the truth. And so it's Amanda and Maz sitting there having a chat. And I think Maz says, why, who do you think the traitors are? And she says, yeah, well, I thought it was Jade. And he says, why, or something. And Amanda even then just says, I don't know. She's like, she just was sitting across from me when we took her blindfolds off. It could have been anyone. Like, even then, Amanda's like, I don't actually know why I was so obsessed with voting for her.
No.
So she says she's got 2 reasons, although I think she only gives us 1. She says at the second round table, you voted for me in retaliation because I voted for you, so I think that makes you a traitor. And Jade's
which is exactly then what she's doing. She's doing what she said. Her reason for voting for Jade is now she's incriminating herself, doing the same thing.
That's a very good point. Absolutely. Yeah, and Jade's like, that's not why I voted for you. I had my own reasons I was going to vote for you anyway. And I'm going to play my cliche klaxon again. Amanda says to the whole table, if I go tonight, you must take everything I've said at these round tables seriously. And I just wish people need to stop doing that, because it's such a bad technique. It's perfect traitor fodder. Like, you're just handing the traitors something to do. So if you say in front of a room of every single player, if I go tonight, it's she doesn't say explicitly, but it's Jade. It's because Jade's murdered me. Well, the traitors are hearing you say that, so they're just going to be like, oh, well, let's just murder Amanda and make it look like Jade. Like, it's just, and this is exactly what happened with Ross. Like, haven't they learned anything from Ben's murder? Like Amanda's just repeating the cycle. So I just thought that was a. I mean, it doesn't end up mattering because Amanda's not really around for much longer. But I just thought that was a huge error. And Matthew says, "Well, Amanda, I'm confused. Hold on a minute. In the car, you said you were going to vote for Sam. Now you've changed your mind. You're back to Jade." And Amanda basically says, "Well, I'm going with numbers. I think Jade's more likely to get votes than Sam." I also don't know if that's a great look to admit that at the round table. Like, oh, I'm just going to vote with. I know the players do that all the time, but I don't know if they should say it so explicitly. Like, I'm just voting with the majority. Amanda does, though, give her reasons why she suspects Sam. It's because earlier he said he was really tired, but only one person was more tired than him, and that's Reese. And actually, Sam didn't say that. If we go back to earlier in the episode and check, but so Sam denies it. He's like, I didn't say that. I think he just implied, oh, there's someone more tired than me. And Reese was one of the, he was still in the cage, so he kind of was implying maybe we should look at Reese, but he didn't actually say that. And it becomes a bit of a just back and forth. I didn't say that. No, you didn't say that. I didn't say that. He did, and so on. And Sam gives a heartfelt plea about not being a traitor and so on. And Amanda simply says, "You're a very clever man and you will make an excellent traitor." And I don't know what that means. It's a very strange wording. You will make an excellent traitor.
Mm.
It's, I wonder if she made herself look like she was the traitor and that he might get recruited or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she's using future tense there. Like, she's not saying explicitly, "Oh, you are," or yeah, funny wording that can probably raise an eyebrow.
Yeah. Ellie's up next at round table. She talks about Amanda influencing the game again and trying to push people to think or vote a certain way. And Amanda's defense is that she doesn't. She just is giving people advice. And of course, Rachel defends Amanda because Amanda's our ally and they now have the shared secret as well. And she's like, no, I've never felt that from Amanda. Amanda doesn't push anything on me at all. Then I need to take a moment to gather myself. James speaks up next and says, I think this is possibly the worst round table line of argument, if I can even call it that I've ever heard in any season of the programme. I'm going to try and quote word for word what James says. And I put on the subtitles. He said, Reese, I really think you are, man. Look, it's nothing personal at all. It's tunnel vision because I'm just so sure. I feel like we're close. You must be a traitor. That's what he says. What was that? Even round the table, I think everyone's just like, what do you say?
It sounds like he's just told himself not to vote for Reese. Like, it sounds like he's giving a reason that's so bad a reason. Yeah, like you say, don't do it then. Like,
I think you are. It's nothing personal. I've got tunnel vision. We're close. You must be a traitor. Ha 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 ha. And then Ellie just sort of like, I think just moves on and is like, so anyway, Reese, why did you destroy your own shield in the mission? So she's asking an actual logical question. And he quite calmly explains that someone was bound to mark his shield. I do actually understand this defense. He's like, someone was going to take my shield away anyway. So rather than having another thing to worry about and try and figure out who it was, I might as well just eliminate that uncertainty. And he says, generally, look, I'm just feeling really dejected and I just kind of wanted some sense of control back. I might as well do it and not let anyone else have the satisfaction of it. And then James says something else equally useless, followed by, if I'm wrong, I'm a tit. Well, James.
It came out of nowhere.
I don't need to say anything else. Reese then he says he feels like he's at the point where people don't even want to trust him. And James goes, that's not true. I'm like, James, you literally just told him that you absolutely think he's a traitor no matter what. And then Reese is like, yeah, no one trusts me. No, Reese. James, you can't, poor Reese, what's I supposed to think? And Fiona just sort of sticks the knife in. She's like, oh, I just can't get out of my head the idea that Reese is this amazing traitor. And then she comes for Amanda and says she hadn't even suspected Amanda until this round table. And imminently, Claudia tells them the time for talk is over, it's time to vote. I thought Stephen was probably safe for now, and I guess he is, although it's a little closer than I thought it would be. I'll go through the votes fairly quickly because we have to do this twice because of what happens. Matthew votes for Amanda. Jessie votes for Stephen, like she said she would do. Obviously thinks that maybe she's got a bit more support now. Reese votes for Ellie, which is mad. Like, Reese, no one else was going to vote for Ellie. Save yourself. Just vote for Amanda or Stephen. Harriet votes for Stephen. And also, I just take this moment to say I am astounded that no one has questioned how spot on Harriet was with Hugo in episode 2 or 3 and how she like got him banished. Like, I was for sure thought people would be like, she knows too much. Is she a traitor? She like, how is she this amazing traitor hunter?
I feel like she barely cropped up in this episode. When she
Yeah.
cast her vote at the round table, I almost was like, oh yeah, Harriet's in this. I don't feel like we'd sort of seen her for the entire episode. She'd really faded into the background.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the same, and except when she was with, the Huns and the mission. Rachel votes for Sam. Sam has amazing hair. I'm just going to say it right now before I forget. Jade then says, Amanda, I voted for yourself, because they love to say the word yourself for no reason. Fiona and Adam both vote for Reese. Faraz votes for Stephen, which he said he would. Roxy votes for Reese. Stephen votes for Amanda, and it's a three-way tie at this point. Stephen has 3, Amanda has 3, Reese has 3. Ellie's next and votes for Amanda. Jack votes for Reese with a little kiss on his board. Amanda votes for Jade. Like, oh my god, Amanda. Like, just vote for Reese and save yourself. And James votes for Reese. So now Reese is 5 and Amanda is 4. Sam's the last one to vote. He could either take it to a tie break, or if he votes for anyone else but Amanda, Reese is going home. But he votes for Amanda. So we have a tie. We have this draw. Doesn't happen very often in Traitors, especially not in Traitors UK. And because it's a draw, they have this moment to give their final plea that will be followed by a revote. And the players can now only vote for Reese or Amanda. And if there's another tie following that, then Claudia tells them that the banishment will be left in the hands of chance. And we saw this in Celebrity UK Traitors for the first time in UK Traitors. So it's kind of weird that it's all coming around again so soon. Amanda does her little speech. She talks about how she just wants to help people find the traitors. That's all that she's been doing. Reese sort of says, I know what I am, and tries to do the whole, I'm going to stand up there and say I'm a faithful, and you're all going to feel terrible, and I don't know what you're going to do next when you realise that you wasted your votes on me, and so on. I don't know if you talked about this earlier in the when they were at breakfast, maybe, or the mission, that because Reese is so dejected, it's not, you're kind of just giving people an easy excuse to vote for you. Like, I think if anyone else was swaying, they'll be like, well, he kind of just wants to go home now, so I might as well just vote for him. It'll be a bit easier than voting for Amanda, maybe. So the revote happens. Harriet votes for Amanda. She changed from Stephen. Rachel votes for Reese. That's a change from Sam. Jade obviously votes for Amanda. Fiona and Adam vote for Reese. That's no change. Faraz changes from Stephen to Reese. And Roxy votes for Reese again. So now Reese has 5 votes. Amanda only has 2. That's not looking great, but changes a little bit. Stephen then votes for Amanda. No change. Ellie votes for Amanda. No change. Jack votes for Reese. No change. James votes for Reese. Of course he does. Sam votes for Amanda, that's not a change, and Matthew votes for Amanda, and that's not a change. It's down to another one final vote. It's Jessie this time. Before, she'd voted for Stephen, so she's going to have to change. She says she doesn't think either of them's a traitor, and she's correct, but she's voted for Amanda, so we do have another tie. Claudia leaves, returns with the chests of chance. By the way, this is one of those moments where you asked me at the start of the podcast, because I knew that something exciting was going to happen in this episode, I thought Reese was going to just get up and walk out. Like, I thought he was just going to say, don't do this, Amanda, you just stay, I'm just going to go. Like, I thought he was just going to give up his place.
Going by his behaviour all episode, yeah, it actually didn't cross my mind in the moment, but Yeah, you're absolutely right. That wouldn't have been totally out of character for him at this point.
Yeah. Even
Um,
when what happens, you know, well, first of all, so they have these two boxes. One of them's got a shield. If they pick the one with the shield, they're safe. Reese lets Amanda pick. I mean, it totally doesn't matter. It's 50-50. Amanda stands, lifts the box. Reese takes the other one. He's upset. Claudia counts them down. Three, two, one. We see a shot of Amanda opening it and it's empty. Therefore, Reese is the shield. He's sobbing. Amanda's banished. Some listeners have suggested before that this is a bit anticlimactic when they because it means that the person that there's no more discussion, no one has to persuade anyone, you've not got like an incentive to change your vote. If it's just opening a box and it's a 50-50 chance, maybe that's not as exciting. Some people feel like it's a bit they'd rather they made them vote again or something like that. I don't know.
no, by this point, I am just like, get rid of one of them. Like, I don't want to see the vote. Like it's good up until this point, and then I would have checked out. So I'm like, yeah, thank God for the check. Yeah.
You're like, get it done with. So,
One
well,
go.
there we go. And even when Amanda doesn't have the shield, again, I thought, oh, Reese is going to like give her the shield and just say, I don't want it. You're all going to get rid of me next time anyway, so I'm just going to go over it. But he doesn't. He holds it together. My prediction was correct in episode 4 of the podcast. I predicted Amanda would be next banished. I don't know if it counts, if it comes down to the chest of chance, but I was kind of right that she got a lot of votes that led to this. Rachel's crying. Amanda says, what a ride. I don't think there's anywhere on this planet where you could meet an amazing bunch of people. Just remember it's a game. Remember everything I've said today. She might as well have just been like, Jade. But and most importantly, remember my house is your house anytime. Amanda, I'm in Brighton quite a lot. I'll be there. I'll just might show up at your door.
I've not
She
heard those
says,
parting words before. That was sweet. I guess we'll
yeah, yeah.
party at
And
Sandy.
she says, I don't need to go all dramatic. I think you all know what I'm going to say. Take care of yourselves. I'm a faithful. And off she goes. They look devastated. Claudia reminds them that one of the unshielded players is also going tonight. And Rachel's just sort of like, told you. At this moment, I thought, oh, this is great for Rachel. Like she can claim, I knew Fiona was a faithful. I can't believe you've all done this. Matt says to Sam that actually now two faithfuls have accused him of lying. I think Judy might have been the other one. So then Sam's like, well, fine, just vote me out next time if you think that. Reese in the background just gets up and walks out. And I still thought Reese is leaving. He's leaving. He's never coming back. Oh my God. And there's even for the first time ever, or maybe not the first time ever, but most of the action in the house is captured by like rigged cameras. But you can see that a camera person is like literally followed Reese out of the room, like with the shaky. So I thought, oh, so he's gonna walk out the door, but that doesn't happen. So
Have
there's
you seen
only
that happen in any series ever, out of curiosity?
uh
Because obviously there's
yes
lots that you've seen that I have not seen. Have people
in
just
Australia season. This is not a spoiler because this aired in like 2021 or something. An Australian player just quit the game in a really weird way at the round table. Um,
I know
just
you've
got
told me
up and said I'm out and left and never came back.
yeah, okay, I need to watch that series.
Yeah. Uh, right. At this point, I thought, right, there's only 10 minutes left. Something bad's going to happen. Otherwise, why are people sending me these cryptic messages? Uh, so they leave the room. There's a bit of a debrief. I noticed there's a close up of a painting in the hall that's like men with spears and a big beast. And I thought, oh, there's a clue about the missions. I don't know if there's other paintings like this. They did this in the Traitors Canada at the end of last year, that all the paintings in the hall gave clues about the missions and some of the players figured it out. Some players are in the library, they're talking about Reese. They can't imagine him faking being this upset. Harriet said the same yesterday. And then James is hugging him in the bar, like, oh, we've got your back, man. And I'm like, maybe I'm really petty. If I was Reese, I'd have been like, get the F off me. Like, don't hug me now. Like, after what you just did in there, like, no, I'm not ready for this. Jack and Roxy are comforting Rachel, and then Rachel announces that she has to gather everyone. And I thought, okay, oh God, right, here we go. Now I see what, like, something is coming. She's going to tell people about Amanda, and yeah, she tells us in her miv, well, Amanda named Sam and Jade, so I could use this to misdirect everyone. I'm going to tell them what Amanda told me. And I actually did think at this point, what if people think she's just making this up? Little did I know that the one person who thinks that she's making it up is her fellow traitor. So she reveals the secret to the group, that the reason Amanda was trying to help everyone is because she knows what she's doing. She's a police detective. She's trained highly in body language and so on. She was trying to help us solve the jigsaw puzzle. And they're all like, oh wow, oh my goodness. She moves to the library, tells another group. Fiona's in this room like, huh?
Fiona's
And
not happy.
Fiona's not happy. She tells us in her interview, I'm not sure what narrative Rachel is peddling. And then she decides Rachel is lying and immediately tells Harriet she can't believe that Amanda wouldn't have told her this because her husband is a police officer and her brother was a police officer. And Harriet's like, I think I know where you're going, Fiona. I'm banking what you said. And Fiona is out for Rachel. She pulls her aside for a chat. It's so uncomfortable. She says, I'm really suspicious of you. She tells her all about her family background. I can't believe Amanda would have told you this. She keeps telling Rachel, you've gleefully come into the room to tell everyone this. And she says, I think that you're going to get rid of me and Stephen. Also, the whole time, I'm like, Fiona, shh. Like, people can hear you.
The edge of my seat at this bit. I think I audibly gasped. I was like gripping my chair. I was like, I could not I'd never, even this part, I had never seen this really happen before. I mean, like, so blatantly, two traitors who have not been forced to come together for some kind of secret mission out of choice has dragged Rachel to the side, openly talking about the fact that they're traitors and having a disagreement with people oh God, I couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
That I was seeing this.
Yeah. And Rachel is like trying to explain, well, because I think Rachel doesn't quite realize what Fiona's accusing her of. I think she thinks that Fiona's just saying something like, oh, you've twisted things, or you're. Rachel basically says, well, she came to me. I can't control that she came to tell me that. But Fiona's like, no. That's not what I'm saying. I just think you're lying. Like, I think you've just made all of this up. Rachel just gets up and leaves. She says, well, I just can't continue this conversation, which is probably the right thing to do. So Rachel takes the moment. She's like, right, well, I need to tell everyone this. I can't be the victim here. She gathers everyone in the kitchen. All the lads are there. And Faraz, who was in the Hufflepuffs, but he was never really a true Hufflepuff. He's one of the lads. He's back. And she tells them all about it. Fiona rounds up other people. They all gather in the kitchen. And Fiona just tells everyone, I believe that Rachel is a traitor. My mind is blown. And Matthew says, are you saying this because you don't want to get murdered tonight, so you're trying to spice things up? Lol. And Fiona's saying, no. Rachel's a traitor. I don't believe Amanda confided in Rachel. And the rest of them are just like laughing nervously. Stephen's just like,
we get his reaction.
I think Stephen's just like, well, thank God for you, Fiona, because now no one is looking at me. This whole thing is nuts. I've seen so many memes about Stephen being like the child in like a divorce who's just like, well, who do I go to? And the clock chimes midnight. Everyone is only talking about Fiona and what's just happened. Off they all go. We're heading to the turret with all these dramatic slow motion shots of Rachel and Fiona making their way there. They're gunning for one another. They're giving it fight and talk.
We know at this moment that we're not going to see what we really want to see. We're not going to see them have it out at the turret on this episode. There's building us up to that. And I'm like, oh, they're going to cut early, aren't they?
Yes, they are absolutely keeping us coming back for one more night. Get those viewing figures. Fiona, well, we can talk about this in a minute, but I think Fiona has just blown it for both of them. Like, I think she has just, I don't know. I mean, she makes a joke about it. She's like, "I've just thrown a grenade in there," and I'm like, "Yes, you have, and you're going to be hit by the grenade." Like,
She did it grinning. She did it all with a smile on her face. It was,
Fiona, they arrive, the hoods come off, awkward, silent staring. Stephen, uncomfortable and nervous. It's so hideous. The episode ends. Now, I, I mean, there's so much still to happen in the next episode. We're going to see the fallout of this. If we can think beyond Rachel versus Fiona, do you have any predictions about who might be murdered next, who might be banished next?
oh God.
I'll
This
I'll return
honestly.
to our. We've got a short list. So if we go back to the mission, who could it have been? Where are my notes? Right, it's either going to be Reese, Jade, Sam, Amanda, Faraz, Ellie, or Matthew. There's a lot of people. Um, Out
Hmm.
of those, right, I have no idea. I've really not thought about this because Fiona just is all that I've been able to think about for the past 12 hours.
Yeah. To be
Not
honest,
sure.
that has distracted me a little bit. I
They're not going to get rid of Reese, right? He's causing too much himself. Like keep Reese around.
so a few people did sort of give him a hug and say, I don't think you're a traitor anymore. Maybe
I
not
could,
enough
yeah,
to, put him in the clear because I think he'll trip himself up again. But if the traitors heard that interaction, if enough people said it, maybe they'll worry that now is he like a confirmed faithful for some people. But no, I don't think he'd be the most likely
yeah.
necessarily.
I
Um,
realised I read out Amanda's name on that list. Of course, Amanda can't be murdered. She's just been
no.
banished. I, I'm thinking that Faraz is on this list, and Faraz has voted for Stephen a couple of times. So
Mm,
maybe they'll get rid of him to help protect Stephen. I'll go with Faraz is who they choose.
true.
Um,
Um,
Banishment. eh, I would have said Stephen. Now I think Stephen probably has nothing to worry about. I do you think
I,
Fiona and Rachel are gonna go
the,
now? Like, is this?
the heat must be off Stephen in the next episode. I mean, I can't see Rachel or Fiona coming together to turn on him in any way. So, I don't think he'll get like a majority from others necessarily. Now this has happened and that this is sort of so distracting. Um, I just can't tell which way it's going to go. It's really I fear it'll be one of them. I think it will be Rachel or Fiona because they're both going to go for each other so hard. They are going to kind of overwhelm the discussion with that. Really, they're going to out each other, but one of them's got to go first. And it's kind of this battle between the two of them in the next episode, I imagine. And
Yeah,
whoever, you know, has the strongest arguments, but they're going to make each other look awfully suspicious. And because of this kind of backstabby situation, it's going to be so much more charged than say the Jade Amanda back and forth, going for each other. Because they're both in the dark with that, it wasn't so charged. It was like, no offense. There is a lot of, offense that's going to be taken between Fiona and Rachel. So I think they'll get suspicious that there is something extra going on here. They'll realize it's two traitors at it.
yeah. I I'm gonna pick Fiona. I can't believe I'm saying that. I wonder if the fact that Fiona was in. Well, I was about to say something that might spoil one of our listeners' suggestions, so I'll hold off on it. One of our listeners suggested something that might help. I'm going to say Fiona is going to go next. I would not have said that, one episode ago. We are not quite
I'll
finished
go
with.
Rachel.
Oh,
I'll go
okay.
Rachel, just so that we're 50-50
We're
in
head
that.
to head.
We're head to head, yeah.
Okay. We're not completely finished with episode 5 because we are going to move on to some questions and observations and hot takes from our listeners in our bonus Q&A episode right after this. And of course, Eliana and I have to conclude the Trade Our Traitor to uncover what we have lied about in this episode. Before we wrap up, Eliana, I mentioned the Cinema Museum at the top of the podcast. Is there anything more you can tell us about that?
Just come along. I think you'll enjoy it there. It's a lovely place. I should sell it more than that. I do tours there. I volunteer but in the cafe and the bar when we do screenings. It's this higgledy-piggledy explosion of cinema going history from across the 20th to the 21st centuries. And you can get a chocolate bar and a cup of tea, and you can sit and watch some really old films, which might be projected on actual film, which might have a live piano accompaniment. It's a lovely place to spend a cold winter's evening. So yeah, come along. They need all of the visitors they can get because they are trying to raise money in order to actually stay on their plot of land. So yeah, it's quite a crucial time to go and give your support to the Cinema Museum. So it's based in Kennington. It's easily reached via the Northern Line. Come along and say hi to me if you're there. If you're there from the podcast, come and say hi.
Yes. And since last time you were on the pod, I've actually been to the Cinema Museum myself, and it was so much fun. It's such a cool place. It's a really cool venue. I took so many pictures. I love the film. It's a really interesting space. I can't believe I hadn't been before and didn't really know much about it, so I can't recommend it enough.
And it has resident cats.
And it's got resident cats. Yes, I met one of them. It's that worth it just for that alone. Absolutely. So thank you, Elliana, for that recommendation. To make sure you're up to date with the podcast and Traitors news from around the world and little videos from me, which I just posted two tonight, I think, you can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. And you can send me DMs, messages, comments, all that stuff there about the show, and I can include your thoughts in the podcast, hopefully. You can email me at thetraderpodcast@gmail.com. You can leave a voice note at I'll say that again, memo.fm/the Trader Podcast. We've got a couple of voice notes actually in our next episode from listeners. And as always, it's really great if you can subscribe or follow or leave a star rating wherever you're listening or watching. Thank you so much to all the people that have been doing that so far. It's really helpful for the podcast. And a couple of ways you can support the pod and help me keep it going are you could acquire some beautiful merchandise at thetrader.redbubble.com, or you could chip in a one-off donation of any amount you choose at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. Stay with us for our follow-up episode. We're going to address your questions, reveal our traitor lies. Until then, laser traders.